Artest looking, gets it to Bryant. Bryant dribbling, has to put it up with the buzzer. Banks it in! He banks in the three! And the Lakers win the game!
Good morning. Welcome. It's 9 a.m. We are live at Central Time, as always, right here in Austin, Texas. Insurance Syndicate headquarters. We got some new swag behind us. We were advertising that last week as one of our weekly wins. But welcome. Thank you for tuning in. What's going on, Mr. Joe?
Man, what isn't going on? I'm actually super excited for this show today. As always, y'all, we're here every Wednesday, 9 a.m. Central, not to mention all of our other Syndicate podcasts. Real quick, if you are tuning in from the Insurance Syndicate, make sure and click the link in the descriptions just to make sure that we can get you up on the show. If you're watching on my personal profile, throw me some stars, please. I'm trying to figure out how to monetize this thing. But with that being said, I'm going to get right into my weekly win. Some of y'all saw me post it yesterday, and it's pretty cool to see, right? Where and kind of what, guys, just so you know, the show that we're what we're talking about on the show today is just leadership and what makes a good leader, the different types of leadership, and then the skill set that leaders should be focusing on. And sitting in the seat that I am and having the team members that I do, and looking in our CRM when it says that we've closed over 286,000 and sold premium this month. That was a big freaking weekly win for me. So shout out to my team, shout out to my guys, and not to even talk about what we still have in the hopper. Just on two accounts. One of these we've got a huge operation that's going to be a minimum of probably 300,000 in premium. And then we've got another operation that we've been working on for about a year. So, I mean, you're talking through this month and the next couple of months, we'll probably have $1 million in sold premium. And that's just between me, my internal guys. So again, shout out to them. Shout out to the month of March. It feels pretty good to log in.
Is that all trucking insurance?
No, it's a mix of personal, commercial, and annuities as well. Well, I say annuities as in one annuity. So, and shout out to Ryan Chickelli on that assist as well. But yeah, man, it's been a good rocking March,
like
and
money
here we
in
go.
the bank.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I like that.
How you doing?
Money in the bank. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. I've been waiting for that. Weekly win. I've got a good weekly win. It's actually something that I noticed on Monday. Is that right? Thanks to my Apple Watch. So it was a byproduct of the little health kick that I've gotten on my little 75-day challenge. I looked down and I just happened to see on my Apple Watch that my resting heart rate was at 59, which is pretty smoking hot, solid. I used to run closer in the 80s. Like December, my resting heart rate was running in the 80s. 84, 86. So didn't expect or see that one coming, but that's just another giant win.
That's just from the 75 hard, you're saying?
Gotta be.
Right.
I don't know where else all of a sudden. I mean, that's the only thing I've done different is quit drinking excessive alcohol, work out every single day, super hard, and eat right. And next thing you know, my heart rate's running 20 points down. Dope. I'll take it. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah,
so that was a huge win when I saw that. I was like, damn, man, that's a huge effect and really impresses the importance or the impact of taking good care of your body. Because just to be honest with you, like at 50 years old, running with the resting heart rate at that high, like that's borderline tachycardia. Like I'm not far off of tachycardia, which is basically fast heart rate, excessive heart rate, and they're going to want to put me on meds. Merwin ain't taking no. Come on, man. We ain't doing that. We're not playing that game.
He said, I'm getting into this Kung Fu tournament, baby.
That's right. We're going to get in a Kung Fu tournament. We just got to find someone that'll enter a 50-year-old into the tournament. And I'll be honest with you, I am not completely unwilling to dye my hair and call myself 38 to get it done. One way or another.
I want to see that.
We're getting in that tournament. I don't care. So we just got to finish getting training going. And we got a year. I mean, the tournaments always come out in the summertime. So it'll be summer of next year. So I got another 14 months to train and keep going.
Come on.
I'm ready.
Come on with it. Well, shout out to y'all. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we appreciate you. Before we get into the show again, we're talking a lot about leadership today. Got to give a huge shout out to our main sponsor of Winning on Wednesday, Viva Virtual Solutions. Super appreciate you, Rob Lopez. And shout out to Lily, who is the behind the scenes producer for us. I don't know what that comment was that Amar was saying, but shout out to Viva. We appreciate y'all and everything that you do to provide value and ultimately help agencies level up in their business when it comes to efficiency and delegation. And that's actually something we're going to talk a little bit about today. But shout out to Viva. Really appreciate you, Rob. And shout out to, again, Lily for all the behind the scenes work that you do. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get right into it, y'all. Winning on Wednesday, you know what the show is about. And today we are talking about leadership. And I think it's multifaceted. Right. I think, one of the questions, and we actually found this article through Champlain College Online. And so, yeah, we kind of broke it down, dissected some of the good pieces and put our own little spin on it. But shout out to them. It was a great read. And I got a lot from it. And it's really what makes a good leader. Right. And when I put the post out there, it's like good, like what makes a quote unquote good leader. And I think, well, it's not just one size fits all. I think when we think about leadership, there's typically something that comes to mind, but it's funny, especially being a parent now, there's different types of leadership that are needed to lead people, right? It's like this. I could tell my freaking kids the same thing over and over and over again. And then like Hanky comes over or their mom says it and it's the exact same thing, but they freaking listen, right? So it's not one size fits all. I don't think leaders all come in the same shape or size. And ultimately, what really consists or comprises of a good leader, if that's correct, is somebody who has the trust of their team and is willing to ultimately assist in the operation and the business and the processes, you name it, in the setup and in the onboarding in order to really hit the goals of the entire organization, the business, the agency. And even if you are a one-man, one-woman shop, you still have a leadership role within that. And you're kind of wearing a few more hats, and some of these different styles of leadership may not apply to you yet in your business. But ultimately, again, there's different types of leadership, right? But ultimately, as long as you have the trust of those around you and you're willing to, when I hear assist, I hear sacrifice for the main goal, right? The objective, then that to me is a true sign of what a leader is or what they represent. And so, guys, from there, we're going to kind of break into the different styles of leadership. I'm going to toss it over to Tony, and we're going to break some of this down. We're going to apply some real life examples to it in our business and others that we think, honestly, represent these different type of leadership styles very well. And actually, well, I guess I technically was supposed to do the first one, huh? I'll let you kick it off. Go ahead and do the first one.
I like that you mentioned one man shop, because let's be honest, if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead other people. So
Right.
If you are a one man shop, you still have to learn to lead yourself through discipline and so forth. But yeah, as Joe said, there's about 6 different leadership styles according to this article. We went through it, like it, so we wanted to share it with you guys. The first one is what they consider a transformational leader. A transformational leader. This is someone that is likely to inspire their team to be a better version of themselves. Someone that's very much into self-development, professional development. Transformational leaders, it says here, will emphasize change towards positive progress. Those are obviously great qualities. When I think of leadership that I would respect, right, that's leading me, a transformational leader is definitely someone that I'm attracted to, right? Someone that is very much into personal development, self-development, growth, whether, again, it's personal, professional, combination of the two. My partner, Joe, here, it's a reason why I'm actually attracted to Joe, because he thinks and acts in that way. I watch him with his team. I've met him, obviously, in settings very similar to this, where we're working on professional and positive development. I'm attracted to that, so it was kind of a natural thing when I met him for us to start hanging out, spending time together, and then starting to grow business and different things together. So when I think about transformational leaders, Joe is one of the first people that comes to my mind. Other people I think of, bigger names, a guy like Ed Milet, right?
Yep.
Huge leader in not only the insurance industry, but obviously very influential in general, just in society at this point, and very much a guy that inspires people to grow, inspires people to be a better version of themselves. Other people I think of, Andy Elliott.
Yep.
Cody Askins. Cody
Andy.
Askins is very much into transformational type leadership. And another person that's more under the radar, but you may have seen him around, he's definitely been on Winning on Wednesday before, is our good friend James Whitley.
Yes. Shout out, James.
Just about, and
Appreciate you.
I think he talked about that quite a bit on the show, about some of his agents that he's worked with that a lot of people would probably kick to the curb, but he invests in them, not only monetarily, but time-wise, and grows them. And he's very much into helping people be much better versions of themselves. And he has the opportunity to give it to them. So always beautiful to hear him talk about those stories. But
absolutely,
that's what I think of when I think of a transformational leader.
And I think part of why I embody that style is our foundation, right? You guys have all heard me do it, the House of Dreams, right? It's literally what we created Redwood on. And just all of those different characteristics that are built into that, right? Whether it's your persona or your character, whether it's removing limiting beliefs or having vision and even just having a dream, right? That's ultimately chasing the better version of yourself. That's what Ed Milet speaks a lot about. But it's all those things, right, that are built into that whole House of Dreams. And I do it with every single agent. I actually have an agent coming in right after this podcast to do it. It's this, right? It's that transformational piece that we wouldn't have all those different categories or things that you should be working on in your life if it weren't to really push you to a better version, right? And not to, I guess, better version, but also just the next version, right? To not stay complacent or comfortable with where you're at, that there's always that one more level, right? That one next, right, chipping away, right, to strike the gold. And so, yeah, the transformational piece I think is important in a leader. I think really a lot of the leaders that I've seen, I guess, I don't know, recently, and maybe there's leaders out there that are not like this, but this is, I think, a quality that we should all have. I'm not saying that we all need to have the different types of styles that we're going to go through, but the transformational piece and like really pushing your team to become better, I think is something that we should all have. Right?
Yeah, I would agree. That should be something that's essential.
Yep.
Especially in a business or industry like this, sales, where it's so challenging.
It's a
because
grind.
you deal with negative all the time. Like
Right.
That's mostly what you hear is people telling you the answer no, and you deal with a lot of negativity. So that can be very wearing on people. So I think having someone there in your corner that can inspire you to pick up that phone again and call another stranger and try to sell them insurance or something else, that's extremely important. So yeah, I would say that's so far, and obviously we've only talked about one so far, but I'm just calling it out now. That's probably my favorite one.
Yeah. Yep. Well, you just brought up having somebody in your corner.
Yeah.
And the next one, y'all, again, get your pen and paper ready. If you ain't taking notes, you're missing out, right? Take notes so it really sticks up here. Is delegative leadership. Okay. The ability to, and again, that's having somebody in your corner that you can actually delegate things to. This is also what I found to be some leaders that I know, or really just, we'll just say agents in general, regardless of the seat that you're sitting in, is delegating tasks, right? I know it was extremely difficult for me when I was moving out of production into more of the headhunting for my team and recruiting and building a team and training, was like having to delegate all that out, right? Hey, I'm not going to be able to do it anymore. And they say that if you prefer a more hands-off approach to leadership, you are likely a delegative leader. Delegative leaders prefer to assign tasks to the team and give them the space they need to accomplish their goals. My read on this one is that you should delegate, but only to a certain extent, right? Like you don't want to delegate so much that literally you're not involved in your business. And I think, I've definitely seen that, and especially in our industry, right? Where they get to that level and it's like, well, I don't have to do anything, right? I can leave the office and I can go play golf every day. We hear that stereotype all the freaking time, right? But I think delegation is also one of the most powerful tools within a business, right? Being able to delegate that. And I love that they said, giving the team the space that they need to achieve those goals, right? There's one thing to delegate and then just, hey, when's that going to be done, dude? You got to have that done in 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah,
right?
We're going to get to that management style
Right.
here in a second.
Just
hang on. That one's on the list.
Right. But I think delegation is extremely powerful. But my 2 cents would be to not overuse delegation to the point of where you don't even know what's going on in your company or your business or whatever you're doing.
Oh, definitely. I
yeah.
would agree with that. Delegative leadership that's an area that I struggle with. And it's weird because especially when I read their definition of it and how they describe that leader as someone that prefers a more hands-off approach, because I do like a hands-off approach. I want to micromanage people. I want to trust that this person knows the job and they're going to do the job. And I will only judge them based on results, right? If they're doing the work, then I'm just going to look at results, and hey, if the results are great, then they're doing a great job. I'll measure them that way. But I struggle with the execution of delegating tasks and like which things do I need to be getting off my plate, because I still get too attached to them because I feel like they're higher priority, right? Like certain things I've been able to delegate, no problem, technical stuff. But when I feel like when it's a little closer to the end product or the end result need for Avila as an agency, I struggle with detaching myself from those tasks and finding good places to delegate them. Definitely one I need to work on.
Good places and good people.
Absolutely, man. And it's an attachment issue, right? It's an ego and attachment issue. Not to get too psychological on it, but that's ultimately what that comes down to, is you have your own ego because you think you can do the job better than the person that you're delegating it to. You feel like you can trust yourself more. So you become attached to that responsibility, and you don't extend that trust, right? And then secondarily, it's fear. And fear always stems from ego as well. So you have the fear that when you turn that task over, they won't do it as well. But one of the things that I don't remember if it was John Wetmore or maybe Perry Lunsford said it best. He's like, man, if you can get two people to do the same job half as good as you can do it, hire them as quick as you can and keep doing that over and over. I'm like, all right, fair enough. So when I think of delegative leaders in my mind that I know are really good at this, it's my friend Justin Brock. I've seen him do an amazing thing in building teams in the team that he has at Bobby Brock. And I know 100% based on spending time with them, running that event with them and different things. He's extremely good at delegating and giving people exactly that empowerment and the trust that they need to do their job and own it. And that's going to be key. I would say delegative leadership is right up there with transformational as far as importance in a leader. It's definitely, because if you don't have that style or you can't delegate stuff properly, you're going to have trouble scaling your business because you're doing all the work. And you have a finite amount of time, energy, and skill set ultimately. So it's either going to burn you out, kill you, or you're just never going to scale and you will always be a one-man show.
At some point, you've got to work on the business and not in it.
Correct. Perfectly said. That's exactly where that lies. That's the difference.
You got the third one?
Oh, yes, I do. That's right here on the sheet. As a matter of fact, you're being that person right now. Authoritative leadership. That's what it says. Authoritative leadership is number 3, but it's actually not as bad as it sounds by the label. Commonly confused as a dictatorial or authoritarian, the authoritative leadership style is actually not as foreboding as it sounds. An authoritative leader serves as a leader or mentor and encourages their team to follow their example. So this is the guy that we all talk about that leads from the front, right? He's out there doing the work with you. He's not going to tell you to do anything that he is not also willing to do and probably actively doing as well. First person I think of right off the top of my brain in our industry is 2 guys, actually, or 3 guys, I should say, because I got them all written down. Ed Pritchett, Pete Fournier, Josh Youngs. Like all 3 of those dudes are hyper successful in the business, but day to day they're in the field grinding, still building and doing exactly what they tell their team to do. Ed Pritchett is particularly boggles my mind why that dude still gets on the phone and sells final expense over the phone, like he from his $15 million mansion in Puerto Rico on the beach. Like what? Like at that point, you don't have. And he's like, no, I have to because I have to stay close to the team.
And he had been on the show and was talking about that transition in COVID because they were all in person. And he goes, it's like if I'm going to ask my people to switch to Zoom and sell over and go virtual, right, then I need to do it too. I need to learn how to, really conduct a true appointment, right? And everything that you got to do in that life scenario, right? When you've got somebody on a Zoom, for him to sit down and do it. And then freaking Pete Fournier, Pete's the beast just because he documents everything that he's doing. And same with freaking Josh Youngs. I mean, they're absolute freaking machines out there, crushing it and leading from the front, which is, again, I think to your point is super powerful. It's something that I try to live by as well is, hey, man, I ain't going to ask you to get on the phones and use this script right if I wouldn't do it myself.
Yep.
And that's why I do it. It's like, hey, let me pop on there and show you that it works. And that ultimately instills, I think, confidence, especially in a newer agent, right? To see somebody that, okay, hey, yeah, Tony's been doing this for how many, 18 years now? 19 years.
Who's counting?
I'm coming up on 10 years. Like, man, to see somebody who's been doing this for 10 years, have no problem getting on the phone and making a cold call, right? Trying to sell some auto or home insurance or trucking insurance or whatever the hell we're selling, right? I think that instills a ton of confidence in what we'll say your teammates, your downline, whatever space you're in, really anybody that's a part of your organization. That confidence, I think, is key, because then they're like, well, shoot. It's like what John Wetmore says. Well, shoot, I was seeing all these guys do it, and if they can do it, why can't I freaking do it, right? Super powerful.
I would again put that leadership style among the other two that we mentioned is probably one of the essential ones, right? That you should have as a leader. Because the key is this: if they're meant to follow your example, and you should be setting a good example, or what I'm trying to say actually is that they have to have a model to follow. If you give them no model, then they don't know what to do. They don't have anything to follow.
Right.
It's one of the reasons that I struggled my first year in insurance. They didn't really give me a model to follow. They just said, here's the book. Those are the doors. Go do the deal. And I'm like, okay. And that was it. That was all the training I ever got, I promise. And I even went and asked for training and got blown off every time. No ride-alongs, no help, nothing. That was it. So didn't work for me. So I didn't have a model to follow. Some people like me are maybe a little slower and they need that model to follow. So that's, I think, an authoritative leader in that regards is super important.
Yep.
Especially for greener agents.
And before I move on to the next one too, I think just a quick challenge, and I may trigger some of y'all, but a recording video from 5 years ago is probably not still cutting it, y'all. Like, just get on the phones and show up to them in person. I think a lot of people will, and that's, who knows, maybe that's delegating some tasks, right? But at least update your videos, okay?
Yeah.
Make it a little bit more applicable to today's day and age, especially because our industry changes every freaking day, not to mention 5 years ago. So on to the next one.
Don't like it?
Why?
Next one?
Transactional leadership, okay? Transactional leadership, sometimes referred to as a managerial leadership. This leadership style relies heavily on rewarding positive behavior and punishing those who do not meet the mark, punishing them. It is a structural and organized leadership form commonly used in corporate settings.
Micromanager.
That it is
what
but
it
I
sounds
think,
like.
But again, this is where you pick a little bit from it, right? Where, hey, they heavily on rewarding positive behavior, and I wouldn't say necessarily punishing those who don't hit the mark, right? I mean, I think punishment's a little freaking deep, but it's like I can pull from it what they're trying to get across, right? Where it's like, hey, man, if you ain't hitting your numbers, you ain't hitting your numbers, and see this guy over here, he is, and I'm going to reward that, right? And that positive behavior. To me, the one thing I got from transactional leadership is I don't think and don't take this the wrong way, but I don't think the guy or the girl sitting at the top should be transactional. I think the transactional leader should be like one or two
middle
levels
managers.
lower. I think you should have managers that are transactional that really help run the shop, right? That it's kind of like, I mean, we've all seen it, right? It's that one scary like manager where you're like, oh shit, like, you know, Joe's walking in the room, act like you're working, right? Like, oh my gosh, put your phones up. So I think it's needed, but I don't think it's necessarily needed if you are the visionary, the leader of, you know, the pack. I don't think you necessarily need to be so transactional, maybe to an extent, but have people on your team that are,
sure,
because I think it is needed within the business.
I would say a big part of it depends on the size of your organization. At some point, if your organization's big enough where, yes, you have middle levels of management, you're going to have some people in there that are really looking at a transactional leadership style and looking at who is out there is doing the job that needs to be rewarded and promoted in front of everyone to incentivize the rest of the team to pursue that example, that model, right? So that they can be rewarded and get those incentives, bonuses, trips, whatever it might be. And then obviously bad behavior is
punished,
right? And you know what? I'd say Cody Askins has this licked very well. Because I know he rewards his team, but he does not tolerate any bullshit. But he sets all the expectations on day one. He's like, these are the expectations. You don't use foul language in the office. You never lie. If I ever catch you lying, you're immediately terminated. Like he tells them right up front, these are the expectations. If they break them, they're going to get blown out. And he has no problem blowing them out. So I would say he's very good at that in that regards, as a mix with his transformational leadership style that we mentioned. But yeah, I can see, like me, because I struggle with authority. I don't like being managed. I don't like being told what to do. It's one of the things that attracted me to insurance is because I could have the freedom to not have to deal with
I
that.
never knew that about you.
So yeah, sure you didn't. So yeah, this style of leadership would probably turn me off. Like I wouldn't be attracted to it as someone versus some of the other styles. But again, depending on the size of your organization, you probably need some transactional leadership happening in there. The next one is a fun one. The next one is the participative leader or participative leadership. This invites all team members to participate in management decisions, right? As a participative leader, you may be apt to include your team members in all the decision making. You will likely weigh various opinions before you come to your final decision. So I think when I think of this, I think of precision senior marketing in a lot of cases when I was there, because our operations and president, like they didn't make a lot of decisions on their own. They would bring the whole team of marketers in. We'd all sit in the conference room and we would talk about, okay, these are some of the decisions that we have on the table to do to help grow our business over the next 3 months, 6 months, a year. These are our goals. What are you guys willing to commit to? What do you want to do? What do you think is going to work? And they let us write. They basically would let us, as marketers, they would let us write our own standards to be measured by. We couldn't, you're not going to write. I'm not going to do anything all day and get paid $1 million. Like that didn't work. But we could say, I can commit to doing this and bringing this amount of distribution in-house through these channels. They'd be like, cool, go get it. And then you were empowered to go get it. So they took on a very participative leadership style, super attractive, right? I really thrived there and did well in that environment. So that's definitely something I like a lot. You resemble some of this too, because I see you bring out your team in a very similar atmosphere. You talk about what's going on in y'all's business and what kind of decisions y'all need to make with your processes, et cetera, to propel the whole team.
I think why a lot of people do not participate in this style of leadership is because of the feedback loop that you get, right? So for me, I have to get pretty damn vulnerable when I'm trying to talk with my guys and figure out what's going on. Hey, is there anything that we could be doing better? And sometimes you hear things you don't want to freaking hear, man. And my guys are watching this right now, and I have no problem saying it. There are some times where I'm like, and it almost pisses you off, right? But then at the same time, I think there should be a perfect blend of participative as well as authoritative. Where, hey, we bring everybody in, we get all of their opinions, we get their feedback, but at the end of the day, the leader is who is kind of leading that example, right? Or setting the example. And I think there's a perfect blend there, because there's also people that'll be so participative that they have no say in their business, right? They get walked all over by their partners or by their teammates or whatever it is. And that's unhealthy, right? You can't have that. You got to be able to speak up like Tacos. Here we go. Hey, come on now. It's true, bro. But I think, again, that's kind of, maybe I triggered some people on that too, is like, hey, you don't necessarily want to hear everything they have to say about what they're doing and how they're doing it and the job and the office and the atmosphere or whatever it is.
There's a difference between what you want to hear and what you need to hear.
Yes. Yep. 100%. But I think if you were to blend that with authoritative, or hey, you definitely, and that goes back to what we were talking about last week, just listening, right? Using your ears, actually having a true conversation instead of just like freaking bull in a china shop somebody. But I think that you have those two blended, it's really good. And that leads us to the last one. I think, and again, y'all, these are different styles of leadership. And a lot of y'all probably watching this, if you're catching it live, you're catching it on the replay. You probably have a lot of these different styles blended in, right? Depending on who you follow, like, yeah, we said different names for all of these different styles of leadership. But if I'm around them and that's, kind of soaking over or off to me, right, as I'm sponge mode, I'm picking up these different types of styles of leadership, right? But the last one, and I think it's the most important one, especially in the industry that we are in, whether this is for your clients, right? Because that's the other thing. You're not just a leader to your teammates. You are also a leader in your community and to your clients in your book of business. Okay. They're counting on you, which that to me puts you in the leadership role when it comes to your book of business. It's servant leadership. Servant leadership focuses heavily on relationship building. If you have a tendency to put the needs of the group ahead of your own personal preferences or desires, then you are likely going to identify as a servant leader. And that to me, again, it just really, hey, what's up, JR? Good to see you, brother. He's servant leader as well, man. Everything that JR embodies, man, I freaking love it. But I think you got to be able to put others first. Right. And
100% in this business.
And it's the sacrifice piece, right? It goes back to having somebody who's I think it was up top to being able to assist, right? It's ultimately I got to sacrifice some of my time, some of my blood, sweat, and tears, right, for the better of other people. But that's my passion. It's why I'm in this industry. Shout out to Tracy Bibb. Why do you want to be in this industry? First ever question I got asked my first day of my summer internship at an all-state office, right? When I was 19 years old. Why insurance? And it's like, well, I love to help people. Like literally, I love to help people, whether that's people around me and my clients, whatever. I like to make money. So when I can help people and make money and it turns out I'm illegal not to have, yeah, insurance is pretty freaking cool, right? But I led with, man, I just really love to help people. And I've been able to tap into that within this industry. And obviously what that looked like back then versus what it is now is obviously transformed and morphed. But I definitely view myself as a servant leader, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I always put others first because when you give, you freaking get. But here's the thing.
It's a yellow personality.
It is. I'm yellow as shit. But here's the thing, though, and this is where I've burned myself. You can put others first too far, right? To the point of where you care more than they actually care, and then that's unhealthy, right? And so I have to be careful of that because this is a heavy trait for me, right? It's something that I really believe in and I'm passionate about is serving others, but not to the point of where it's a detriment to myself, right? So again, a lot of y'all probably out there feel that, right? I love to help people, but don't do it to your own detriment, right? Again, there's a difference between sacrifice and detriment. So servant leadership.
Love it. Servant leadership is definitely huge on my list. I mean, if you read it, it says that it's someone that believes and focuses on relationship building. You guys hear me, I talk about relationships all the time. So I kind of feel like I embody that, and I'll back that up because I feel like my own dad was very much a servant leader. He was a servant leader at church. He was a servant leader in his community, certainly with his family. He was always that type of guy that was making sure that the people around them or around him, they were covered. Mm-hmm. They had what they need. They always came first. And he knew that if I took care of them, I'll get mine. And that's Zig Ziglar said that. Right. He said, if you spend your time helping others get what they want, you will get what you need.
Yep.
So it's definitely one of the most valuable forms of leadership. Should definitely be blended in with the others. I don't think you can stand on just one leg alone, because certainly I would say servant leadership is probably the most vulnerable type of leadership for what you described. So if that's your only style, you're likely dysfunctional to the regard that you're dragging people along that aren't willing to do their own work.
Right.
And you just care for them too much, and you can run your business in the ground that way by just constantly dealing with that. So, and when I think of other servant leaders, like in the industry, I think of my buddy Ali Saleh. He's definitely a servant leader. And then I think of Dave Williams, who was on our show. Like,
shout out to Dave.
That dude lives to serve the industry, his community. That I can't remember the name of it. Elevate Experience, I believe, that he did with the kids and
broke
set
the
Guinness Book of World Record for the highest Zoom call, or I don't remember exactly what it was.
Highest attended Zoom call by families and children for a virtual education event.
For virtual education, something like that. But said again, I'm like, that dude, very much servant leadership. Ton of respect for him. So those are your 6 leadership styles, right? You shouldn't have just one. But think about maybe what your strengths are. Think about maybe what type of leadership you're attracted to or inspired by. But again, you have transformational leadership, delegative leadership, authoritative, transactional, that's your micromanager. Don't forget that one. Participative, and then servant leadership, right? Blend those in, inspire your team, grow something big. And then the article also added, I think, 10 good traits or leadership skills that you should embody. And we'll kind of rattle these off pretty quick with a few notes.
Yeah. Well, and we'll leave you guys with this. And these are definitely write these down. Okay. And these are 10 leadership skills that you should focus on. I'll go through the first 5 and let Tony wrap us up here. But the first one, and I think, man, you have to have this in everything, any leader out there. Without this, you're not a freaking leader, right? You're a fake you're a fraud, in my opinion. If you don't have integrity. Okay. So one of the number one, in my opinion, I don't even know if you call it a skill, but we'll call it a skill just for the sake of going through it. You got to have integrity in everything that you're doing. We were just talking about last week with Rob Bullerdick, man. Just do the right freaking thing. So number one is integrity, y'all. Number two, this one is really, really freaking big. And it kind of goes back to the participative and the different styles of leadership as well as self-awareness. Having self-awareness, right? Be aware of what's going on around you. Whether it's, again, in your this can apply to your personal life, right? It can apply to anything in your business, but we have to exercise self-awareness, right? So that we know what's going on in our company, what we're going on in our people's lives, right? Depending on your leadership style, if you're going to be involved with your people, you need to be self-aware, right? Of what is actually going on around, and you need to be self-aware of your own actions, right? And what you're doing too. So number one, integrity. Number two, self-awareness. Number three is empathy. I think we all know what empathy is, right? And we all, honestly, we probably need a little bit more of it in the world, right? This is one that, to me, I think it's needed, but also, again, don't do it to the detriment of yourself, right? When you empathize too much with somebody else, it's like, okay, well, now I'm just kind of like, letting them be cool with being complacent, right? Because I'm empathizing with them too much. But we have to have empathy. Number four, communication. This was 2 weeks ago that we talked about how to have a better conversation, and just being able to communicate. And to me, in this industry, in this business, whether you have partners, whether you have a one man, one woman show, right? You got to book a business, whatever it is. What builds trust, y'all, is communication, right? Without communication, that's why I tell people, that's why we start up all of our Slack channels. I want them to have a direct line of communication to myself and to my team, because without communication, there's no trust. And if there's no trust, why the hell are we doing business together? Yeah. Right. So you got to have communication. So number one, integrity. Number two, self-awareness. Number three, empathy. Number four, communication. And with communication comes number five. We talked about this a couple weeks ago as well. Active listening. Active listening, right? Not just sitting here on your phone, right? Multitasking. You
That
can't
sounds like
multitask.
active listening. It's like I'm active and I'm listening. I'm but
they start doing jumping jacks while you're
active
talking.
Listening means actively listening and not doing anything else.
Yes. I need
be
push-ups.
less active and listen.
Push-ups during the morning meeting. But no, active listening, right? So again, one more time here, guys. The first five are integrity, self-awareness, empathy, communication, and active listening. Okay, Antonio, close this out with the last five.
Yeah, number six, growth mindset. Dude, this is a must-have if you're a leader in any organization. Because if you don't have a growth mindset, and that's not a leadership skill that you're constantly working on, you're running a stagnant business. Your shareholders certainly aren't going to be happy with you. And your people aren't going to be happy with you because they're not growing. There's no opportunity there. They eventually leave. That stagnant business will probably just fail. So you always have to have a growth mindset to grow the business, to take care of your customers better, increase profits better, maintain profitability, etc.
Agreed.
Number seven, patience. Got to have patience, right? Because business takes a while to grow. Number one, you're dealing with people. People are flawed individuals, unfortunately. So you got to learn to have patience. And I think kind of what comes along with that is trust in what you're doing and right. So in what you're growing, what you're building, what you're leading, right? And if you do trust it, you can have patience with it. 8 is optimism. Woo! Got to think positive, man. The future looks bright, right? And that goes in with growth mindset to me. You can't have a growth mindset and be pessimistic about it.
Right.
Like, we're going to do these things to grow, but we'll probably never get there.
Do it in the cave.
Like, none of that would work. So you definitely have to be optimistic, because that's, again, a part of a leader. If you have people that are looking up to you and you're the authoritative type leader, for example, this is follow my example. I am the role model, and you're a bag of negativity. Like, your people are going to suck. They're going to be negative too, and they're going to hate coming in to work for you because you're not inspiring. You're not, optimistic and fun to be around. They're going to get out of there. That's a toxic atmosphere. 9, decision making.
Like this one.
Yeah, decision making. I mean, there's a reason that a lot of people that are entrepreneurs and run their own business call themselves the chief executive officer, because that means that they are in charge of what? Decision making. You got to learn to be a good decision maker, right? And that doesn't mean that you sit around with analysis paralysis, because time kills all deals, and that decision's probably going to get made properly. It's probably not going to get made at all, or it's going to get made with very poor timing, and you don't get the results that you really wanted. So be measured in your decision making, but don't be afraid to pull the trigger, make the decision, and figure it out. Hey, we're going to do this. Let's execute on it, and we'll get through it as we go.
I think one thing I have on that, decision making and patience, I think, go hand in hand. For me, I have zero issue pulling that damn trigger. I will pull the trigger. I will make that decision so fast. I do not sit and think on things, because that's just not who I am. Sometimes, again, to a fault, right? Where I should have exercised more patience in my decision making. And it's like, man, if I had just waited a week, I would have found a solution that wouldn't have burned me on $5,000. Like, damn it, right? So it can be it's a really good strength, but at the same time, I think patience it needs to be somewhat involved in your decision-making process too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Patience to be pulling the right trigger.
Yep.
The final one is transparency. Transparency is huge in leadership. Your team needs to know what's going on, where we're going, what is the vision, right? What is expected, all of that. And that's especially true, I think, in the insurance industry. They need to know what's going on behind the scenes that generates the business, that creates things, and how this thing moves. And if they understand that, I believe if you're transparent about the business, about your vision of what you're doing, it's easier for them to get behind you and be a good active listener and share your growth mindset, for example.
I got a real life example for this, y'all. For anybody that's watching this, if you're in sales, I don't care if you're in insurance or anything, like just sales in general. Being transparent will literally help you win more deals. Like I've literally been on calls with agents, like whether it's a recruiting call or even a client call, right? Back when I was in production, I hear my guys do it all the time, but I'll literally tell them exactly what it is, right? No, you don't have to sign an NDA to read my freaking contract, because it is what it is. Like, hey, basically what you see is what you get. And that's transparency, right? And they're like, wow, like you guys are just so transparent and honest. And I'm like, yeah. It's like it'll literally win deals, because there's other freaking we'll go back to the transactional leadership, right? Or the things that are kind of more involved on that corporate side of things when people are being recruited, where they're like, bruh, like you are not 100% telling me everything, right? So, and that's and again, maybe that's kind of a diss to the benchmark of where we're at, right? In the world, but we'll just talk about the industry in specific, is like, why am I winning more deals or growing a bigger team? Because I'm transparent and honest. Right. But be transparent, right? And you will literally win more deals.
Yeah, well said. And every time I see or hear the word transparency, it always kind of makes me cringe, because I feel like a lot of people just use it as a buzzword. Like I feel like it's that hot buzzword in the last few years. Like, well, we're looking for transparency, or hey, no, we're always very transparent. People say it and they kind of use it as a buzzword. But if you have the number one leadership skill that you hit on, integrity, then you should have no problem being transparent about what you do, about the deals that you're creating with agents that are going to help them grow. But don't just use it as a buzzword. Like back it up with some integrity, right? And remember, integrity doesn't just mean honesty. That means that the structure, the formation, the business is sound. Right? It's sound. It's stable. So, yeah, transparency is a big one. Don't make it a buzzword, please, because I'll find you.
I will punish you. I will
transactional leadership all over you.
I will punish you, bro.
100%. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed that. Hope that gives y'all some bits of nuggets and wisdom that you can use to help grow your business, man. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We certainly do. I am off to Cabo San Lucas tomorrow. I can't wait. That should have been my weekly win, but I'll come back. That'll be my weekly win for next Wednesday.
There you go.
We're going to go do some whale watching and have some fun. So hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Great weekend. Remember, it's Wednesday, man. It ain't over yet. This is the peak of the week. It's time to put the throttle down.
Let's get it, y'all. We appreciate you guys. Hope you have an amazing rest of your day and rest of your week. Get out there and get some wins. Oh, and also drop your wins in the comments. We want to celebrate that with you.
Absolutely.
We appreciate y'all. Have a good one. See you.